but not respecting your game. Mamu with an up fake, drives right through the lane.
Yo, what's good, yo? We got to talk about Sandro Mamukelashvili, a man who has a name so long that Matt Devlin still can't get it right. But he is solving every single thing for the Toronto Raptors. And today I'm going to take you through the data, I'm going to take you through the film, and I'm going to tell you why this is exactly the type of player that we, Toronto Raptor fans, have wanted next to guys like Scottie Barnes forever. Now, last year, not lost on me that Pascal Siakam, a player that perhaps many of us thought needed a stretch big forever, and the Raptors surely tried. Kem Birch had a little bit of shooting potential, but wasn't exactly this level of stretch big. Kelly Olynyk is another guy that the Raptors tried to experiment with. Aaron Baines, this is the same philosophy, same mentality. I'll remind you that the Toronto Raptors won a championship with a stretch big named Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. Space is necessary, and it was not too surprising that when Pascal Siakam got to the Indiana Pacers, he said, I've wanted to play with Miles Turner forever. This is the guy that I wanted to play with. And it's also not surprising that Pascal Siakam was about as efficient as he's been in 5 years and won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and possibly was one Tyrese Halliburton injury away from winning Finals MVP. It's not surprising. But there is one player who, like Siakam, like Giannis, like Ingram, like Jokic, like Luka, requires that level of space from their big, and that is Scottie Barnes. So let's take a little look at what Sandro Mamukelashvili has been able to do for the Raptors trio of bigs, or big wings, so to speak. Also, this is a nice little reminder that we're trying a new format right now, a new strategy, which is we're going to do back-to-back lives. So right now we're doing a Mamukelashvili live. This is not going to be a super long one. This is going to be very, very data-packed, very yapless, not a lot of existential philosophy at the end of it. This is going to be pretty quick hitting. So for people who are always pining for those 30-minute quick hitters and just saying, give me the data, give me the film, give me everything I need, but I don't want to listen to you for 2 hours, we're going to do a shorter live right now. And then around 7 o'clock, we're going to be doing a yes or no to Ja Morant, because the Vegas odds are out and the Toronto Raptors are the fifth, one of 5 teams that are favored to land Ja Morant. I have my own thoughts about Ja Morant, but we will explore it from a fair perspective and weigh out the pros and cons of actually making a deal for Ja Morant, what it would take, what it would look like. We'll have you covered on that one at 7 o'clock. There are no NBA games tonight, with the exception of the Phoenix Suns and the LA Clippers. If you want to watch that game later on, you certainly can. I will be on playback with Player's Choice. You can definitely come and hang out with us. But I will warn you, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard are not playing. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be a Phoenix Suns win. Moving on. AG saying I like it. Okay. Now, what really got me excited yesterday was I read an article by one of my favorite Raptors media people, which is Louis Zatzman. And in this article, he laid out Scottie Barnes. He said he did a deep dive on Scottie Barnes, and there was an excerpt that really got me excited because this was data that I hadn't looked at yet. And I was going to look at it during our members only live, but this is very interesting to me because all the net, the lineup net data suggests that Mamukelashvili and Scottie Barnes have been amazing. I didn't realize how amazing it's actually been. So I want to read this out, and shout out to Raptors Republic and shout out to Louis Zatzman. He does great work. And, he did a lot of, he has just done incredible work. He's a very good writer and a very good analyst. He says, of all the changes, perhaps simplest and easiest to have predicted is that Scottie is best alongside floor spacing. That makes sense. Virtually every NBA player is, but Barnes especially. He is an outrageously brilliant passer, yet a limited driver who has trouble getting his hips past his primary defender. So extra space with Diggs having to travel a few extra feet in order to attack his dribble allows him both to catalyze his passing and his driving in different ways. Therefore, Barnes has been unlocked by playing alongside the unbelievably talented offensive big Sandro Mamukelashvili. That has shown up by the numbers. He is scoring. That is not a typo. I checked it, and I checked it twice. 45.9 points per 100 possessions with Mamukelashvili on the floor with a net rating of plus 23.2 and 23.1 points per 100 possessions without him, a net rating of negative 11.7. As a point of comparison, that scoring rate with Mamukelashvili is equivalent to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's overall rate for so far this season, fourth in the league, while the rate without him is equivalent to Vince Williams Jr.'s rate on the season, below the 100th ranked player. I'll add some extra context to that. To those of you, like myself, who believe that Michael Jordan was the greatest scorer of all time, 45.9 points per 100 possessions is a mark that Michael Jordan clipped one time in his career, and that was 1987, the year I was born. That means in my lifetime, Michael Jordan has never scored as many points per 100 possessions as Scottie Barnes is currently scoring this season with Sandro Mamukelashvili on the floor. Small sample size, you say. I get it. But even if this number holds somewhat true, even if this number bottoms out at 38, that is a remarkable jump from where Scottie has been as a scorer for most of his career, which is somewhere between 25 and 30. That's pretty much his oscillation range. For Scottie to take the next leap as a scorer, I think spacing is very important. And I think what Lewis says here is very, very key, because what the Bucks are showing right now with this so-called not very talented roster around Giannis, they've lost Damian Lillard, but they've added Miles Turner. And Miles Turner hasn't been amazing. He's not hitting his twos. He's not really doing a great job in the post. He's not really grabbing a ton of rebounds. But what he does is he's a threat. He is a threat that if you are going to double Giannis, there is a guy 15 feet away who is capable and willing to hit this jump shot and has a record of doing it. The Toronto Raptors have played Scottie Barnes in a box for several years now. They've played him with guys like Davion Mitchell, who have no scoring gravity whatsoever. Davion can hit 40% from three. Defenders do not guard him. Jamal Shed does not have a ton of shooting gravity yet. The mentality behind bringing in Brandon Ingram is, at least in theory, that it fits this model of putting spacing around Scottie. RJ Barrett is an excellent space attacker. He's a little bit like, RJ Barrett when he was drafted. People may not remember this. He was actually compared to Chris Middleton. Now, I know he didn't quite become the defender that Chris Middleton is, but I certainly understand the comparison a lot. And Chris Middleton was the key that unlocked Giannis. Chris Middleton plus Jrue Holiday plus Brook Lopez was the championship key for Giannis. But it is most specifically Brook Lopez who can vacate that area in the paint that Giannis so desperately needs. And Giannis doesn't have the shiftiest handle. Giannis is not near the passer that Scottie is. But Giannis is like this mega large athlete and this downhill threat. And I think Scottie can be something similar. I think the best way to look at building a team around Scottie Barnes is ask yourself the following 4 questions. Would this player fit next to Luka Doncic? Would this player fit next to Draymond Green? Would this player fit next to Nikola Jokic? Would this player fit next to Giannis Antetokounmpo? Because Scottie is an amalgamation of those 4 players. And basically the same thing that those 4 players need to be successful is exactly what Scottie needs to be successful. A lot of people have said that he reminds them of Aaron Gordon in Orlando. Aaron Gordon himself has said, Scottie Barnes is kind of like me in Orlando. And, one day, when he settles into this 3rd, 4th option bullshit role, that's when he'll really unlock and win championships. I disagree. I actually think Scottie Barnes desperately needs an Aaron Gordon, the type of athletic defender who can guard and be a vertical spacing threat, who can be a lob threat, who can hit threes. This is exactly the type of player that Scottie had, well, to some extent, with OG Anunoby. And Scottie and OG always posted positive net ratings. Ask yourself the following question. Does Chris Boucher fit next to Nikola Jokic? He does. Does he fit next to Luka Doncic? He does. Does he fit next to Draymond Green? He does. Well, guess what? He also fit next to Scottie Barnes because a pair of those two had a positive net rating and an obnoxiously positive net rating last year when they shared the court together. So the formula is very simple. But what is it all pointing to? And I'll point to a very, very big problem that Mamu presents as well. Lewis continues. So Barnes has been his best with a floor spacer, been at his best with a floor spacer, part of the limitations of Jakob Poeltl on the year due to his injury, but Barnes' net rating with Poeltl on the floor over his entire career is plus 1.7. Space has been kind to Barnes, but that has only been a small component of the change in Barnes' game. The sets in which Barnes is seeing touches have changed dramatically. He's seeing fewer static isolations and post-ups. He's finishing with about half as many possessions as a pick-and-roll ball handler. Meanwhile, he's finishing more than twice as many possessions as a pick-and-roll screener. And yes, he generally slips up on the ball screens, which services himself as a scorer far more than it services his guards. That's fine because he has been such a brilliant scorer on the catch in these scenarios. I discussed this at great length with Samson here. The link to that is in the article. He's cutting more, he's using more possessions in transition while also finishing much more efficiently in the open court. Again, this comes down to locking in, physicality, and all that stuff. Now, just make myself really small here and make this really large. These are the Toronto Raptors' most frequent lineups. I use this data a lot to point to the fact that basketball is a 5-person sport. It always has been and it always will be. And ultimately, how 5 players function on the court together is going to benefit some players in that lineup, and it's not going to benefit others. The coach's job, frankly, is to always find the best units that sort of synergize each other and mask each other's weaknesses. If you have a weak point of attack defender or multiple weak point of attack defenders, you need to put some rim protection there. If you have a downhill guard, you need to put spacing around that guard to vacate the paint. That's what the Bucks have done with AJ Green and Miles Turner as they catalyze this Giannis, Cole Anthony, Ryan Rollins downhill threat. Now, obviously, I think the talent around Scottie in Toronto is far greater than the talent around Miles Turner, around Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Bucks. And I think that really showed full center when the Raptors whooped the Bucks in the last game. But that all being said, the Bucks are so much better optimized around Giannis. You would never see a Jakob Poeltl on a Giannis roster. So the question then becomes, what is Toronto's grand plan for Jakob Poeltl? Because it's obvious to me, starting Jakob Poeltl hurts Brandon Ingram and Scottie Barnes in certain ways. It also helps because screening is also an important thing. So in a lot of ways, Jakob Poeltl is an imperfect starting center next to Brandon Ingram or Scottie Barnes or RJ Barrett. But he is an ideal pick and roll partner for Immanuel Quickley. But no team in the league builds their offense around their 5th and 4th most important players. So this does really lend itself to exploring where the Raptors' mindset could be if changes are to be made. Now, you'll look at these lineups and you'll see a lot of negative net ratings. The Raptors starters, Ingram, Poeltl, Barnes, Quickley, and Barrett, have a abysmal net rating of negative 14.9. You'll be happy to know that this has improved a lot since Jakob Poeltl came back from injury and has looked reasonably efficient. And this was worse before. They were like negative 20. So this is moving in the right direction at least. Thank God. All right. You'll notice that the lineup with Colin Murray-Boyles is also negative because CMB, for all the 3-pointers he's hit so far, still has nowhere close to the shooting gravity and polish that Sandro Mamukelashvili has. Among the Raptors' most used lineups, it is the one with Mamukelashvili, Barnes, Ingram, Barrett, and Quickley, basically Mamu plus the other 4 starters, that is posting a consistently positive net rating of 22.8. The second one with Ingram, Barrett, Barnes, Mamu, and Jamal Shed, so basically Jamal Shed in place of Quickley, also has a positive net rating of 15.8. Then you go to the absolute crazy lineup, which is Quickley, Abaji, Barnes, Dick, and Mamukelashvili. So basically, this would be the lineup that the Bucks would put around Giannis. Quickley, Abaji, Dick, plus a stretch big. This is the lineup that, granted, in 9 minutes, so take it with a grain of salt, is posting a ridiculous 47.6 net rating. And then there's that Barrett, Quickley, Barnes, Dick, and Mamukelashvili that is posting a 61.8 net rating. This is to say that the Raptors are scoring more. They're outscoring opponents by 61.8 points per 100 possessions. Again, on a larger sample, these numbers may balance out, but it is not a coincidence that almost every single lineup with Barnes and Mamukelashvili or some combination of Mamukelashvili and Ingram and Barnes, these lineups are, for the most part, positive. Ingram, Abaji, Mamukelashvili, Dick, and Shed. So no Scottie in that lineup is also a positive 27.5. Again, very rare to find a lineup with Mamukelashvili that is negative. He does so many good things for this team. Now, here are the Raptors' two-man lineups. And here, again, the highlighted column is, so the first column is games played, second column is minutes played, third column is offensive rating, fourth column is defensive rating, the fifth column is the net rating. You'll notice, quickly Mamukelashvili, positive 17.6. Mamukelashvili Shed, positive 15. And again, these are larger samples. These are 70 minutes, 71 minutes, 71 minutes. Mamukelashvili is just positive. Ingram and Mamukelashvili, plus 11.1 net rating. Barnes and Poeltl, negative 20.2. Barnes and Mamukelashvili, plus 20.9. That is a swing of 40 points per 100 possessions and we're accounting for 85 and 82 minute samples. We're talking about 167 minutes of basketball. And when you pair Scottie with Mamu, not only is he scoring 46 points per 100 possessions, the team itself is way better. Okay. Now, move on. Let's move on here a little bit. This is last year. Notice something interesting. There's not a lot of positives in the Toronto Raptors last year. They were a team that won 30 games. They were a team that was abysmal for a lot of the year. They turned it around a little bit later. But you'll notice Boucher and Barnes in 376 minutes posted a plus 8.6 net rating. It's not a coincidence to me that this is the type of player that just consistently works with Scottie. And again, last year when people were judging him, right, and people were saying like, oh, Scottie's washed, I'm like, look at the players around him. People have a need, for whatever reason, a lack of intellectual curiosity, a lack of understanding, to always oversimplify things that need to be nuanced and need to be understood. Yes, it does matter what players you put around. Now, you take for granted that most teams just put logical lineups around their star players. But what happened with Cade Cunningham when he didn't have a lot of space, when he was working with Killian Hayes, who didn't have any scoring gravity and was often ignored? Cade struggled. The Pistons lost 20 plus straight. What happens when you take Killian Hayes out and you replace him with serviceable NBA players? Suddenly the Pistons are the darling of the NBA and Cade is all NBA. I think Scottie has proven for 3 straight years of his career that he was a better player than Cade Cunningham. Last year, the only exception where Cade had a better season. Now, I think some Raptor fans would still push back on the idea that Scottie is better than Cade, but I will promise you that if you gave Scottie Barnes, Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Asar Thompson to carry so much load defensively, a stretch big like Beef Stew, a downhill guard like Jaden Ivey, he would do more with that, in my opinion, than Cade Cunningham did last season. So let's move on to the Mamu film session. Again, this channel, we love film. So what is Mamu really? I think Mamu is a lot of things. Number one, he is probably the most successful minimum free agent signing of the offseason, not named Josh Minott. By the way, shout out to Josh Minott, a player that I called for the Raptors to sign for exactly the same reasons. I would love him next to Scottie Barnes. I think he is a type of player that the Raptors desperately need. I would have signed him for up to $6-7 million. The Boston Celtics got him for free. But apart from Josh Minott, this has to be one of the top 3 minimum signings this offseason. And a lot of really good players signed for minimums this offseason. But Mamu is special. And here you're going to see why. Here he is able to attack a flat-footed defender who isn't really great at guarding in space because he has skill sets that are very wing adjacent. And here, instead of, pummeling into, and Scottie probably should have gotten out of the way at this point, but is offering a little bit of a passing window here for Mamu. Mamu has nothing but options here. He can fling this across, and he's more than capable to Grady Dick. But he just does the simple right move. Steven Adams is not playing him to score. He's like, okay, cool. Don't want to play me to score? Let's score. So much of what Sandro does, though, comes down to his off-ball awareness, his understanding of space, his understanding of where to be. And these are always the players that thrive next to Scottie. And the best example of that is actually OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, for all of his warts on the ball, was always that guy who always found himself in the right place away from the ball. OG is an extremely smart player. Not only is he a super versatile defender, who just racked up, I think, 4 steals yesterday and is just playing amazing. But again, throughout the years of Scottie's, Raptors tenure so far, some good results, some bad results, rookie of the year, all-star, but also some slumps and some negative press and a lot of, bad weeks and bad stretches. The Raptors have been collecting data. So they look at Scottie plus Joe Wieskamp. They look at Scottie plus Otto Porter. They look at Scottie plus Svi Mihajlovic. They look at Scottie plus Armani Brooks. These players all become sort of mini experiments in terms of the types of players that work and the types of players that don't. Kelly Olynyk was an experiment, if nothing else. Chris Boucher is an experiment. Jakob Poeltl is an experiment. Grady Dick is a hypothesis. Jacoby Walter is a hypothesis. When you try to build around a player, that's the point. You are building around this player because you are trying to do everything within your roster to maximize him. I guarantee you that Colin Murray Boyles, at least in part, was designed or is drafted because the Raptors have so much positive evidence that Scottie plus a defender like that, i.e. OG Anunoby, i.e. Otto Porter, have produced such great results, right? Not shocking that the Raptors, the last time they were in the playoffs, it was when Scottie had the most 6'9" team around him. Thaddeus Young, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. Like that team was Vision 6'9", apart from Fred VanVleet. Okay, here. Watch. You see Mamu kind of coming out, and Mamu is going to clear the driving lane here. But more so than anything, he is going to give Scottie the perfect pass. He cuts behind the defense. Thomas Bryant doesn't see him. RJ Barrett does a good job. And here you get a wide open three from Mamu. None of this happens if Mamu stays put. None of this happens if Mamu isn't in the right place. But time and time again, you'll see here that Mamu is just a really intelligent basketball player. You can see he was very well coached as a youth. And here we go. Just giving Immanuel Quickley the simplest pass. This is the simplest basketball that you can. Here, running in transition. The simplest thing here, right? You're going with a small versus a big. And Jamal Shed does the thing that I pray every day that Immanuel Quickley does, which is he forces the commitment from the defender before making this pass. I'll guarantee you dollars to donuts. Okay, if this is Immanuel Quickley, the pass is going right here or he's not making the pass. But Jamal Shed waits for this, never projects, and here gets Mamu a wide open dunk. Beautiful. Just two smart basketball players learning how to play. Okay, here, Scottie Barnes. We talked about this play yesterday. Set a screen here. And the second the defense helps, look at Scottie and look at Mamu. There is separation. Now, if Mamu rolls into the paint, that allows for Cole Anthony to get back into the play. That'll allow, Bobby Portis to get back into the play. By parting ways here, he allows Scottie to get this pass back to him. And again, it's just really smart things like this over and over again. Here, watch Mamu at the bottom of your screen, right? Just stay in the right place. Your defender, which is Miles Turner here, vacates the spot. Make the 15 feet of separation. And so when Scottie, who is a very smart basketball player and a very smart passer, is going to be able to get you a wide open shot. Again, at times last season, this wasn't happening. With Orlando Robinson, Cole Swider, guys like that, this shit just wasn't happening. Okay, these passes were easily dropped. I remember watching Scottie's first summer league, and I think it was Freddie Gillespie, Jesus, dropped like 6 passes, which were all bunnies, assists, right? How differently do you feel about a guy who has 6 more assists at the end of the game? And it's just like, you feel very differently about it. You're like, oh, wow, you had a triple-double. It's like, yeah, I need my teammates to catch basketballs and hit shots. Okay. Scottie was number 2 in the league last year behind Trae Young in assists, potential assists per 100 possessions. Like, it's a ridiculous number of passing opportunities. And Samson and, all the folks over at Raptors Republic have done plenty of deep dives on Scottie's passing. He creates some of the best advantages. And for a guy who has a quote unquote weak handle, for a guy that isn't guarded right now as a shooter, you should be very excited about the fact that Scottie is still able to leverage his scoring gravity to create such excellent playmaking opportunities for his teammates. Here, once again, this is just Grady Dick, and Scottie's always looking for him. I actually kind of wish he'd skip this pass, but here Grady makes a good pass here instead of forcing this over Giannis. And Scottie, honestly, you could probably just make this yourself. but he's going to trust the assist to the assist, and Jamal Shed needs no prompting to find his shooter wide open. Here, the other advantage of Mamu is his ball handling. The fact that he is able to make decisions with the basketball. Now here he picks up his dribble because Larry Nance is really in his handle. He doesn't want to turn it over, especially this high up the court, because that is a guaranteed breakaway dunk for a very good athlete. Here, Mamu calls Scottie, and because he is large enough to make this pass, he's able to make this pass over the defense. Scottie makes this right here, and this is probably the most impressive pull-up three of Scottie's career, if I'm being honest. Like, this is hard, man. You got 2 seconds on the clock. It's a bailout shot, just beautiful. Makes it. Once again, sometimes it's just about the intelligence of knowing I have a mismatch. How many players do we know that have low basketball IQ that are calling for post-ups when actually it's hurting their team? Here, you have a smaller defender. You can make this shot. Worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to send a second defender and you're going to get a wide open corner shooter. But here, the help doesn't come, and Mamu does not need any prompting. He can make this shot. Just when you watch Mamukelashvili, if you're a basketball coach, you just say, mwah, chef's kiss. He does not make mistakes. Here, set a screen for RJ. And then when the defender gets around, rescreen for RJ, then separate, right? And here, make this pass to Scottie Barnes, who has a better angle to make this pass eventually to, and watch. And this was the play that we were talking about, right, with Mamu, where Mamu relocates to the corner. And this is the play. You know, I apologize for me doing this again, but I just wanted to take a closer look at it. It's just he's just a smart basketball player, man. Little skip pass to Scottie Barnes. Defense doesn't react properly. Amen Thompson is thinking, now, are you wondering why Grady Dick might be of service here? I'll guarantee you, if that's Davion Mitchell in the corner, that is an immediate closeout to Scottie Barnes. Because it is Grady Dick in the corner, you cannot immediately cheat off of. And Scottie is such a willing passer. If you close out on his left hand, he's going right down middle, and this is going fling right back to Grady, or this is going to be a wide open dunk. This is what passing gravity can do for a player. Nikola Jokic is one of my favorite players. He does this all the time. The threat to pass. Now here, this is early transition. Makes the pass to Scottie Barnes. This is just going to be a broken play, but this is like the hustle, right? Now this play doesn't work. Scottie probably made a bad decision here, trying to pass to Grady Dick on a finish when Amen Thompson is the closest defender. That's a miscalculation. Amen is going to break that play up 8 times out of 10. But here, because Sandro ran the floor, he's able to get the putback dunk. Once again, he's not just helping Scottie, he's helping RJ so much as well. Here, RJ intelligently passes. Who has a better shot to score here? RJ on a really long wing defender like Jabari Smith, or Mamukelashvili on Reed Shepherd? Obviously, it is Mamukelashvili on Reed Shepherd. And this is the complication. When Mamu becomes the 4th option or 5th option in a lineup with Ingram, Barnes, Barrett, like that, quickly, like, you really can't guard this guy with your 5th defensive option. Like, as much as we've talked about the complications of trying to guard Scottie with your 2nd best defender, if you put your best defender on Brandon Ingram, or the downstream effect of trying to guard RJ Barrett with your 3rd best defender, which is damn near impossible because most teams' 2nd best defenders can't realistically stop RJ Barrett without a little bit of help in the paint. Stopping Mamukelashvili with Reed Shepherd, this is a problem. And it's only a problem because Mamu spots these advantages and is able to milk them. Now here, once again, just like the previous play against the Bucks, the help does not come. But he doesn't need to force it because Alperen Şengün is asleep. And Scottie Barnes, who was actually missed on the play before, is recutting here. I remember breaking this play down when they faced the Rockets. He's going to recut the baseline here, and nobody reacts, and Scottie's just going to get a wide open dunk. Give up a good shot for a great shot for your star player. This is something that I've often preached, and I believe it. Like, I believe role players need to give up star buckets, and this is good. Now, it's not just all offense. It's also on defense. Yeah, Mamu gives up a lot on defense. He's not a major shot blocker. Cool. Neither is Jakob Poeltl. Okay, he is even worse at rim deterrence and whatever. He is a lot smaller than Jakob Poeltl, but that doesn't mean he's not participating defensively. He's doing a lot of stuff defensively. Look at this. You know, he's able to swat this shot away, right, on Thomas Bryant from behind. He'll get into the passing lanes. He reads. He's an intelligent defender. he is definitely more of a small forward, jumbo size small forward, power forward playing out of position, which is kind of interesting because the Raptors' entire team is basically small forwards playing out of position. But here, look at that. Once again, Thomas Bryant doesn't seal well. And then here, Sandro Mamukelashvili is just willing to make this beautiful pass to Jamal Shed. This is what Mamu looks like, not as a player, but as a chart. His game is basically spot ups, transition. He is the roll man. He is a cutter. He doesn't do a lot of pick and roll ball handling. I think that can change with the Raptors. He doesn't do a ton of, this is his last year's shot chart, by the way. He doesn't do a lot of post up stuff. I think that can change with the Raptors. He doesn't do a lot of handoffs and off screen work. Again, I think that can change with the Raptors. He is pretty positionally versatile. He guards 3 to 4 positions, and obviously 2 of them he guards competently well. He'll struggle against faster point guards and shooting guards, and he'll obviously give up a lot against bigger centers. But he is at least diligent enough to do his work early. He is at least high motor enough to care about the game, right? So moving on to what all of this means, I mean, these are similar players. So if you're looking for players that kind of fit the mold, and it's so funny to me to see Aaron Gordon, OG Anunoby, Josh Minot here. It's double funny to see Terrence Mann here. These are all players that I've talked about trading for before. Jaime Jaquez is a player I've talked about. Jalen Johnson, obviously not a gettable player, but definitely a player I've talked before. Dario Saric might be like washed at this point. And ironically, Scottie Barnes has a similarity score to Mamukelashvili because of their play type archetypes. But honestly, this all points to a much, much bigger thing, which is the Raptors have a problem. And the problem is you've signed Sandro Mamukelashvili to a 2-year deal. It's really not even a 2-year deal. It's more like a 1+1. And that +1 is a player option. And unfortunately, the way the CBA works is you don't actually have bird rights on a player until they've been on your team for 3 years, which means you can't really go into the tax to sign up, or you can't go past the tax to sign a player, which means the Raptors have a lot of problems as it pertains to the fact that Mamukelashvili might be the reason right now you're not 2-6 on the season. Straight up, you replace him with Kem Birch or one of those other guys that you've had, Orlando Robinson, whoever. You're not going to be 4-4 right now. His impact has been that great that I would argue you could be as bad as 1-7 without him, especially because you've been missing Jakob Poeltl for this much time and you really don't have anyone that can play that position. But his lineup minutes are so impressive that if you were to just replace him with an average player, not an aggressively bad player, not a young player, not a rookie, I'm saying just an average big who doesn't do what he does, you're probably 2-6 at best. That's a big, big swing for a guy who's on a minimum contract right now. These deals are called prove-em deals for a reason, and they are prove-ems to the league. Now, last year, I think he proved a hell of a lot with the Spurs, and he still ended up in a minimum contract situation. Why did he sign with the Raptors? Possibly because he had, according to him, he had trust in Darko, how he was going to be used. He came here to show the world what he can do when he is used like this. And there's plenty of teams that could use him like this. Indiana could use him like this next year. Memphis could use him like this as a, if they move on from one of their bigs, their numerous bigs. San Antonio could certainly use him back. He would fit beautifully next to Wemby, as they saw last year. He just hasn't had a lot of opportunity, I think. And last year, with the opportunity they had in San Antonio, he obviously caught the eye of the Raptors. And he is once again right now, if any GMs are like me and they're studying the numbers as I am, they know that this guy is worth way more than 2.4. And he knows he's worth more than the 2.8 player option he's got next year. So that presents a very unique problem for the Raptors, which is to say they will have the opportunity to re-sign Mamukelashvili, but they will likely have to use their mid-level exception, and they will have to likely go deep in the tax unless they are able to preemptively make some moves to clear some space for Mamukelashvili. What is the deal? What is the deal if he opts out of this player option? Honestly, I'm willing to go $32 million across 4 years, $8 million a year. I'm willing to go that high. I know it sounds crazy for a guy who's on a minimum contract. They often, agents will tell you don't sign a minimum contract because you get stuck in the minimum contract loop. I think Mamu is better than that. He is a late bloomer. He is a 54th overall pick who has grinded his way. He's already clipped out whatever expectations there were for him, coming out of Seton Hall. He has already clipped those. So to be honest, he's proven himself to be a hard worker. He's proven himself to be a great teammate. He's proven himself to be a invaluable fit next to your 2 best players, 3 best players, really. I think you need to keep him. So 8 million. That's the money that was previously assigned to Ochai Agbaji. So that's one part of the Mamu thought process. We're 36 minutes in. This live has already gone a little bit long. So obviously I love the sound of my own voice. Hopefully you like the sound of my voice too, which is why you're listening to me. Please give this video a like if you like the sound of my voice. That sounds weird. Let's talk about Lauri Markkanen, bro. Now, there are very few players that I have talked about trading for more than Lauri Markkanen. Lauri's a hell of a talent. And Lauri is everything Mamu is, plus if Mamu is a Ford pickup, right? Like a Ford pickup, then Lauri is like the Lamborghini version of whatever that Ford pickup is supposed to be. Okay. He is so much more dynamic. He has so much more gravity. And we looked at Mamu's usage chart. Here's Lauri's usage chart from last year. And again, he's having a better year this year than he did last year. I think Lauri Markkanen is the perfect Scottie Barnes teammate, if we're being honest. Like, he makes a ton of money, $45 million a year, fine. As a roll man, cutter, handoff, off screen, spot ups, transition, Lauri Markkanen is freaking amazing. And there are a lot of players that I believe in my hypothesis and in my analysis that I believe fit next to Scottie. One of those players, ironically, is Brandon Ingram. So I'm very happy we traded for him. I am also going to say there are other players that also fit with Scottie. There are players like OG Anunoby, which we've already seen. Lauri Markkanen is another one. Mikal Bridges, in theory, also fits with Scottie Barnes. Here are some players similar to Lauri Markkanen, and this is going to be interesting, offensively similar to Lauri Markkanen, and you actually are going to be quite surprised to know you actually have one of them already, and that is Immanuel Quickley. Zach LaVine is another one. Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, Kristaps Porzingis, Mikal Bridges, Tyrese Maxey, Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves. Again, this probably won't make a lot of sense to you in terms of how are these players similar. It's similar in terms of usage, similar in terms of efficiency, similar in terms of zones. And the point here is every single player on the screen, in theory, should fit next to Scottie Barnes. The one who is actually on his team right now clearly doesn't. And that is more of a, did Masai see this coming, or did Masai basically make the same mistake I'm making right now, which is he read a bunch of charts and looked at similarity scores and said, in theory, because I saw 15 positive minutes of Scottie Barnes and Armani Brooks, and because this idea of a ball handler who is quick twitch and downhill and can hit in the floater range and is a good pull-up jump shooter should fit next to Scottie Barnes. Honestly, I still buy it. I still buy this idea that Scottie Barnes and Immanuel Quickley should be dynamic and great teammates. So far, 2.5 years, 2 years into this experiment, they haven't been great together. But maybe they'll figure it out once Immanuel Quickley levels up as a decision maker, or once Scottie Barnes is able to assert himself more dominantly in the offense and kind of, let's say, stabilize the pecking order a little bit so that Immanuel Quickley doesn't dance with the ball too much. So yeah, so like overall, this is kind of where I'm at. Is this all, if we're being honest, is this all leading up to this is the type of player you need? Is Lauri Markkanen or something adjacent to that, whether it be in your draft philosophy? Now, ironically, Colin Murray-Boyles and Sandro Mamukelashvili on front and center do not have anything in common. You may not actually even see overlaps between OG Anunoby and Colin Murray-Boyles. But if Colin Murray-Boyles can shoot, then does Colin Murray-Boyles actually share a lot in common with Sandro Mamukelashvili? Smart off-ball player, lengthy, multi-positional, toolsy, good screener. If he can do the pick and pop thing, he's a good off-ball player, good roller, good finisher, smart, high IQ basketball player, has a handle, can recreate, can flip the screen a little bit. I think there's a good basketball reason to believe that Scottie Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles will have a very, very functional fit together. There's a lot of basketball reasons to believe that Lauri Markkanen would work wonderfully and would unlock pockets of space, not pockets of space. He would unlock suitcases of space for Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett. I think this team may look at this trade deadline as an opportunity to shuffle the deck a little bit more. And Frank saying, I'm going to start watching more raps simply because of you, Pen. I appreciate y'all, man. Absolutely. Now, Tyler is saying, can we get Ja for cheap? That will be the subject of the live at 7 o'clock. we're trying out a new format here. I said yesterday in a live, that I did past midnight, that I am very, very close to my goal of being able to pay off my mortgage this year, but I am still far enough away from it that I have to grind. So this is an idea that I had in my head. I was like, you know what? I often do these like 2.5 hour super long lives that go into 5,000 different subjects. And people sometimes will complain about it. Some people love it, because it's just like we hang out for 2 hours. Some people hate it because on the rewatch, it's kind of frustrating to dance between 500 different subjects. So I thought to myself, why don't I try this? Let's try to see if I can use this live to prepare you for the next live. I already think that between the two subjects, the evolution of Mamu solving everything for Toronto and how that could potentially trigger the Raptors thinking about Lauri Markkanen, because just an FYI, Walker Kessler just got injured, is going to miss the season. The Utah Jazz are about to pull the plug again. They're a rebuilding team. Lauri Markkanen is 28. The Raptors are 4-4. Like, there's a natural need to go get Lauri Markkanen right now. You're not the only team that wants him, but you do have a lot of salaries that could go out for him. So using that live, can I then interest you in potentially coming to the 7 o'clock live, which is going to be about Ja Morant, which is also going to be, me talking, me looking at interviews, me looking at all this stuff, looking at data, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll try this format out. We'll see if the 2 live back-to-back thing works. And if it doesn't, if it's annoying, whatever, people are just like, I just want 1 live a day, we'll go back to the old format. But this is a way for me to double the content and double my workload, but also if it's efficient, it's efficient. And also, what better day to do this than a day where the NBA basically has one game? So let's respond to some comments briefly. FL saying, if CMB can shoot and if Mobo can learn to shoot in the 905, that's the vision. I actually think Jonathan Mobo has very positive synergy with Scottie Barnes, especially defensively. And again, the combination, okay, so it's something that I feel like people really don't understand. And it's frustrating because I hear people talk about Nikola Jokic and, people like Luka Doncic being such bad defensive players. And I always feel it's a little bit disingenuous. And I feel like the people who say that stuff are usually just looking for a reason to tear those players apart. You can never be a great offensive player and terrible defensively. Like, it's very rare. You would have to be an exception of exceptions. I'll tell you why. What is, I brought this point up on the panel. So, if you hear from the panel, like Frank, maybe this is, Rusty Nail saying 191 live viewers watch, hit the like button. Yes, you should hit the like button. And a little birdie told me if you hit the like button, a little basketball bounces. And this is one of the few channels on YouTube that actually happens for. So it's pretty cool. And I actually like, hitting the like button on my own video. Yes, it's pathetic. I sometimes hit the like button on a Pinsire basketball video to pad our stats. I'm doing a little bit of stat padding myself, like an AAU hooper, and I see that little basketball bounce, and I'm like, oh, that makes me happy. I mean, it's so simple. Shout outs to YouTube for doing that. But people often talk about defense and isolation of offense, and I just don't think you can isolate these two things. The game is played at rapid pace. This is not football. This is not football. Football, you can isolate defense and offense. Baseball, you can isolate defense and offense. Even soccer, I feel like you can do a better job of isolating defense and offense. But when the court is 94 feet, I don't think it's that easy to isolate defense and offense. And the two things are more connected than you would think. Turnover suppression. What guys like Jokic, Shea, Luka do, regardless of, if you want to highlight one clip of them blowing an assignment or one clip of Shea picking up a stupid foul or getting hunted on defense. This idea that using a ton of possessions typically stabilizes your offense. And if that player is not turnover prone, i.e., Cade Cunningham, Trae Young, Jaylen Brown, these guys are very turnover prone. Guys like Jokic, Shea, Luka, they're not. Like, that's the big separator between those guys, apart from efficiency. So when you are able to do two things offensively, one, turnover suppression, two, efficient offense. So the quality of your passes, the gravity of your scoring, and the efficiency of your own scoring leads to more baskets. Then what you are doing is limiting the other team's offense, which is basically defense. Isn't that defense? Defense is limiting the other team's offense, right? So if I don't turn the ball over, you run less. If I score more, you run less. So the very fact that my being on the court, if I'm a Nikola Jokic or a Luka Doncic, and I am able to score efficiently, not turn the basketball over, and again, because I am a dominant scorer, there's typically better scoring balance and floor balance defensively when I take the shot. because I draw so many defenders to me, I also sometimes will open up offensive rebounding opportunities, which once again help my defense because the offensive rebound stops the transition basket. So again, all of these things being factored in, these are the ways that offensive superstars can help defensively. Now, what about defensively? Well, what about rebounding? Luka's a great rebounder. Shea's a very good rebounder for a guard. Jokic is one of probably the best defensive rebounder in the league, right? What about size? Luka, Shea, and Yoke are incredibly long players. They sit in gaps. They are active, right? I think Luka had what 5 steals yesterday. I mean, he's able to do this when he has the energy and when he has the gas to do this. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to deny these guys have some incredible lowlights, but these guys do such good things defensively and offensively that it's really easy for me to just overlook the parts where Luka's going to get cooked one-on-one. They're also extremely intelligent. Shea is a great communicator defensively. He's extremely smart. He sits in the gaps. He knows where to be. He's very rarely going to be caught off balance. So are there physical limitations? Absolutely. Do they compare at all to the physical limitations there are to a defender like Shaedon Sharpe? No, because Shaedon Sharpe is tiny. Anthony Simons is tiny. Okay, Shaedon Sharpe's not tiny, but he's like 6'5". He's not Luka big, okay? Like, the very idea that, Jokic is like 6'11", 270, and he has like 7'4" wingspan, 7'5" wingspan. Like, that dude is just a huge human being. So you zone up, that dude is occupying more of the court. The fact that he has rather quick feet and all that stuff, like, I mean, shit, Jokic is a much better defender than you think. So yeah, like big playmakers, and I think that's part of why Scottie's defensive impact is so great, because he is such a great passer, because he is not turnover prone. This is the lowest turnover rate of Scottie's career. And yeah, I think he does so many good things for you. It's not a surprise to me that, people are waking up to it. I really do think Scottie is on the verge of turning a corner right now on his season. Like, the last 4 games have been elite. And again, I wanted to use this video to highlight how much Sandro Mamukelashvili is doing for him, because Scottie is certainly not doing this by himself. RJ is certainly not doing this by himself. Ingram is not doing this by themselves. Like, these guys are benefiting tremendously from the players around them. Players like Jamal Shed, players like Sandro Mamukelashvili, players like even Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, guys like this. And if the Raptors want to take this to a whole other level, I think there's a player in Utah that they should probably target. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. I will catch y'all at 7 o'clock. I'm going to go prepare for that live, do my research, and hopefully we can have a lively discussion. I'll add a call-in link to that one, and you can tell me, or maybe I can tell you, why Ja Morant is either a good idea or a bad idea. I will talk to y'all later. Again, that live, which I'm using this live to plug, shout outs to me, synergy between our 2 lives, will be up at 7 o'clock. Worst case 7:15 if I run out of time. All right. Justin, I said 7 o'clock. You immediately moved it to 7:15 because I have a really bad tendency of moving lives up by 15 minutes. Yes, I promise you it's not because I'm disrespectful. I promise you it's not because I don't care about you. It's because I clearly have some poor time management, and sometimes I'll be doing videos and trying to create the intro video and shit for this, and I just run out of time. Yeah, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. You thought it was 7:15. Well, my friend, it is 7:15 now. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye. Actually, I think I did move it to 7:15. It was initially 7 o'clock. I moved it to 7:15. So sorry to gaslight you there. My bad. It is 7:15. Most likely it will be 7:15. It might be 7. It might be like 7:25. I don't know. I'm gonna do my best. I'll do my best. We'll have a lively conversation about Ja Morant. Peace.